welcome to the cardiovascular section of the IFT model. So what we look at in this section will be these four components. First, let us look at the IFT model. Once we look at the IFT model, let's look into the zones, the three zones formed in the IFT model of cardiovascular, as well as how it relates to the IFT model. Number three, let's look at the energy systems and how we analyze about the calorie expenditure of different intensity. And finally, let's just understand BT1 versus BT2. Now, if you look at the ACE IFT model, there are four phases altogether, working with clients with different goals. So let's look at this. If you look at aerobic phase as the first one, it helps to improve function. Now, what function actually means is to be able to perform day-to-day life. Number two will be aerobic efficiency. It aims to improve health as well as help to manage body composition. Number three, which is anaerobic endurance, it helps to improve fitness. What it actually means is to help endurance athlete to be able to go at a higher intensity for a longer period of time. The fourth phase of the IFT model of cardiovascular will be anaerobic power. It helps to improve performance. What it actually does is that it helps endurance athlete to improve their short burst power within an endurance event. So all these four phases of IFT model works for different clients' goals. Number two, let's look at the zones and the IFT model, how it all relates to each other. So ACE came out with these three zones. Okay, if you look at these three zones, so it starts with resting heart rate, and that will MHR that represents your maximum heart rate. So maximum heart rate is usually predicted to be or guessed to be 220 minus h. However, we are referring to the actual maximum heart rate. So this space between your resting heart rate to your max heart rate normally is referred to as your heart rate reserve. So this heart rate reserve will be divided into three categories: zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3. Now, if you're training for function, you'll be training at zone 1, which we call it the aerobic phase. As exercise intensity increases, and if you like to work for your health, then you'll be training in the aerobic efficiency phase. That will help to improve your health as well as help to manage your body composition. Now, to train for aerobic efficiency, you usually train at late zone 1 up to zone 2, the entire zone 2. Now, if you have clients who want to improve their endurance, what I mean here is at a faster speed as well as longer duration, called fitness, then they may want to consider working at the anaerobic endurance phase, which is the end of zone 2 and the entire zone 3. Last phase of the IFT model of cardiovascular will be to improve anaerobic power. That will usually help people who participate in long distance event and they want to improve their short burst power within the long distance event. We call that anaerobic power. Usually, if you train for anaerobic power, you need to train at near your maximum capacity or your maximum performance. So, let's look at the energy systems now. Now, when we use energy, what the body will do is to make ATP. I will usually relate the word ATP with money. So, if I say I'm rich, means I have a lot of money. So if I say if I have a lot of energy, means I have a lot of ATP. Now what ATP actually stands for is adenosine triphosphate. So your body uses three different systems to produce ATP, adenosine triphosphate, depending on the intensity as well as the duration. Now, when the intensity is really high, like for example, you need to do a 100-meter sprint as fast as possible, your body will utilize phosphagen system, to create ATP. The phosphagen system will use creatine to make ATP. The second system, we call it the glycolysis system. So the glycolysis system will use your glucose or your glycogen to make ATP. The last system will be oxidative. This is probably why a lot of people will be interested to hear, because oxidative system is the one that uses fats in the body, turn them into energy to make ATP. So the body will decide decide which energy system to use depending on the intensity. If the intensity is really high, the body will use phosphagen. If the intensity is from low to moderate, they will use oxidative. Intensity from moderate to vigorous, they will use mainly from glycolysis. Now, it's also very important for you to know that the energy system is non-exclusive, meaning all three energy systems is present at all intensity. The difference is which is dominant. Now, let's have a look of how this energy system relates to the zone model. Now, this is your resting heart rate. This will be a max heart rate. If you look at if you are exercising in zone 1, or you're probably resting towards or say closer to your resting heart rate, we call this the oxidative zones. Why? Because predominantly, most of your calories will come from fats through the oxidative systems. As exercise intensity starts to increase, your body will start to rely on glycolysis. That means less fats, more glucose to convert that into energy or calories for your body to move. So that's very important for you to understand, because a lot of times we are very concerned about how much fat we burn, what intensity to do so that we can burn more body fat. Now, if you were to look at these zone models, ACE came out with this VT1 and VT2. Let's understand a little bit more. So that if you look at this, there's a separator between zone 1 and zone 2. We call it the VT number 1. Now, VT number 1 is something very special here. At VT number 1, you burn 50% of your calories from fats, 50% of your calories from glycolysis. That means these two systems is equally active to help you to make ATP. Why? Because when exercise intensity starts to increase more than VT1, glycolysis will be the dominant systems. Let's look at what does VT2 means. Now, VT2 means we call that the OBLA, onset blood lactate accumulation. Now, before we even look deeper into VT2, let's understand when lactate rises. Now, we have to understand when exercise intensity gradually increases, that means we tend to make ATP. When ATP is used to produce energy, your body will produce this thing called hydrogen ions. Okay? Now, when hydrogen ions starts to increase a little bit more, you will start to feel that soreness on your muscles. Of course, when it gets really a lot, that's where you feel really sore, and that's where you can't move on anymore. So, once your body produces more and more hydrogen ions, your body will produce this thing called lactate. Lactate is your savior. What lactate does is that it will buffer hydrogen ions. So lactate will grab hydrogen ions and bring it to be oxidized. So lactate is a good thing. So if you were to look at VT1, that's the first rise of lactic acid. It means lactate has already taken hydrogen ions. So VT1, we call it the first rise of lactic acid. So if you keep exercising, you keep increasing intensity, there will be more and more hydrogen ions. When there are more and more hydrogen ions, that means there are more and more lactate. So because lactate helps you to buffer hydrogen ions, because when hydrogen ions is still there, you will not be able to increase intensity further, you will not be able to go on a longer duration. So lactate will start to help you. But it comes to a point where the production of hydrogen ions is way faster than your body's ability or your lactate's ability to clear hydrogen ions. We call that VT2 and it's known as OBLA, onset blood lactate accumulation. So the more you train at zone 2 and zone 3 in the anaerobic endurance phase, you will realize that your VT2, your OPLA, onset blood lactate accumulation, will start to increase. Why? Because your body now is more efficient in clearing hydrogen ions. And that's a good thing, that's what you want. That is why world-class athletes or well-trained athletes, they have a bigger and better OPLA or VT2. So, if you look back into your entire zone models again, through training, you want to increase your VT1. Why you want to do that? Because as your VT1 goes higher and higher, your body will be able to oxidize fats at a greater level. That's what you want. VT2, you want it to go higher and higher because you want your body to be able to clear hydrogen ions better, or we call it lactic acid. You'll be able to clear lactic acid at a better rate. Now, I hope with this explanation here, you will begin to understand how the IFT model relates to the energy system.